All right. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to NAMI New York State Wellness Wednesday, Part 1, Youth Mental Health, sponsored by the Hannaford supermarket chains. My name is Cassandra Ferrugia, she, her, hers. I invite you all to put your pronouns in your name if you would like. And I am the Communication and Youth Engagement Specialist at NAMI New York State. Today, we are joined by our panelists, a group of prominent leaders from throughout the state who will be sharing their expertise on youth mental health, their different programs that they're working on, and how they're working to expand these vital resources. Before we get started, I would like to thank all of you for joining us today and to remind everyone that you can share your video, or you can also stop sharing if you don't want to. Please remember to keep yourself muted as others are speaking. At the end of each presentation, we will open up to questions. You can put your questions into the chat and I will be moderating. If you have any questions or any troubleshooting issues, please contact me or Kate. Kate can wave, and you can see where she is on the screen, so you can write out to her. And let's see what else we want to go over before we start. And if there's an overwhelming amount of questions that we receive during our different question sessions, we will hold some for the end and try to get as many as we can at the end of the presentation. And before we get started, I would like to introduce Angela. Angela, if you'd like to come off mute and introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Angela Krieg. I'm a graphic recorder, which means during this talk, I am going to be illustrating through visuals the talk. And so you're going to have visual notes at the end of this talk that you'll be able to use to be able to remember this session of Wellness Wednesday. Happy to be here with everyone.
Thanks so much, Angela. All right, and so we'll get started. I would like to thank our wonderful group of panelists for joining us today. And first we have Donna Bradbury, who will go ahead. Donna, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Great. Thanks, Cassandra. And I'd like to thank NAMI for inviting me to speak with all of you today. It's my pleasure to be with you. My name is Donna Bradbury. I serve as the Associate Commissioner for the Division of Integrated Community Services for Children and Families at the New York State Office of Mental Health. And that division name is a real mouthful, and we usually just call it the Children and Families Division here at OMH. I've been with the OMH for a number of years. And prior to that, I worked for a county mental health department. It happened to be Rensselaer County here upstate. And I worked as an administrator, but also as a therapist, and had the distinct honor and privilege to provide services directly to children and families there. So I want to talk with you a little bit in the next couple of minutes about what my division does, the kinds of services we oversee, and some of the things that we're interested in. The first thing I think I'd like to say is that really all of the things that we do here as a division center around system of care values. And some of you may have heard of that phrase, system of care. It's a concept that's out of SAMHSA, our federal agency that we are responsible to. And it's really just a fancy way of saying that services should be family and youth guided. They should be delivered in the least restrictive setting. They should be culturally and linguistically responsive to the people that we serve. And perhaps most importantly, they should be coordinated across systems. So whenever I talk about services for children and youth and families, I always make the point that where there are multiple systems that are involved. It's never just the mental health system. At the very least, the education system is involved with the children and youth that we serve. And often there are other systems like juvenile justice, child welfare, sometimes developmental disabilities as well. And so it's really incumbent upon us and our providers to take all of that into account and to do our best, right, to coordinate and deliver really the most coordinated care for children and families to best meet the needs. and remember that the youth and the families really should be in the driver's seat and should be telling us as the service providers what they need and when they need it. So, so the other point I want to make is that the children's system is really constantly evolving and growing. And we started out, many years ago, really very much like the adult mental health system, in that it was very focused on really high-end restrictive services like residential services and inpatient. And over the past couple of decades, we've made really great strides in growing more services in the community so that children, youth, and their families can access services before things get to the point where inpatient services or residential services are needed. We've done a lot, even just in the past couple of years, to expand the service array in a pretty significant way. We did that through some work that we did with Medicaid and our partners at the Department of Health. We also partnered with and continuously work together with our coworkers at OASIS and OCFS, or substance use and addictions experts, child welfare experts, state education, right? And so together with those, and OPWDD, I should mention also, are experts in developmental disabilities. So together with those state partners, we really redesigned the children's behavioral health system and made more services more widely available to more children. And we did that in a couple of specific ways. And one thing that we did was we took home and community-based waiver services and sort of aligned them across systems so that children and youth, no matter what system they enter through, they can get the service that they need. We didn't want services only available to certain types of kids depending on, the kind of door that they came through. We also made services like youth peer advocacy services and family peer advocacy services much more widely available to more children and families by making them Medicaid reimbursable. We're just in the next coming months about to implement something called Youth Act. ACT stands for Assertive Community Treatment. Some of you may have heard of ACT as an adult sort of model, and we've modified that model to meet the needs of youth. It's very family focused and also has sort of components around vocational and educational aspects that we feel are important to that age group. And we're optimistic that it's really a package of services, right? That includes sort of clinical and rehabilitative services will be responsive to the needs of many youth that might otherwise go to inpatient or residential. I talked a little bit about cross systems work. We're firm believers in that. We do work with our partners in other state agencies on a regular basis. We are doing a lot of work now with schools. Of course, I don't need to tell anybody that the pandemic has been extremely stressful for children, youth, families, everybody, right, across the board. And schools are having a tough time right now, really meeting the needs of students in a comprehensive way. Schools are worried that a lot of children, a lot of students are not attending school, either virtually or in person. And we worry about that. We worry about the mental health and well-being of those students. And so we're right now working with a group of educators and mental health providers to share best practices. Some of our providers have developed innovative ways of outreaching to those students. And so we're trying to share all of that information so that when schools are largely back in person in the fall, we can work together to address the needs that are coming up. I know I'm running probably a little bit short on time, but I just want to mention we also do some preventive activities here in the division. We're very interested in supporting families of infants and young children. We implement a model called Healthy Steps, which is based in primary care, so pediatric primary care offices have a developmental specialist that works with families to help families really get off to a good start when they have a baby, and help to address some of the stresses that come up for families. And we do that because we believe that by addressing those needs early on, we prevent sort of problems with mental health later on for that child. We also have a program called Project Teach that's about supporting pediatricians' efforts to address mental health concerns in children and teenagers. And we provide consultation to those pediatricians and training. And we also help provide linkage and referral to specialty mental health care. So I think in the interest of time, I'll pause there, and I just want to mention two things. And if Cassandra either now or later can bring up I have two slides. One is about something called Project Hope. The Office of Mental Health was very happy to receive a grant from FEMA to address the social and emotional needs related to the COVID pandemic. And I want everybody to know that everybody's welcome to call the emotional support line. Hopefully you've seen ads. We're pretty good about advertising on television and on social media. But just in case you haven't seen it, here's the phone number, and we encourage you to reach out if you ever need to, and to share that number with others. And then the second slide is about something called the crisis text line. And again, anybody, anywhere, this is not just for New York State, but anybody can text got5 to 741-741, and that's for any type of crisis whatsoever. And there are people there that will listen and help get you connected to services. So I'll stop there and see if people have questions.
Thank you so much, Donna. And yes, I promote those two different resources on our social media, so make sure you follow us and you can see that there too. So now we'll open the floor for questions. You can put your questions in the chat. I see that a few people are interested in asking, so you can start doing that. I'll read them out aloud for everyone. But for now, would you mind telling us a little bit more about the Youth ACT teams? I feel like a lot of people would be really interested in knowing maybe some more background on how that came to be.
Yeah, sure. So ACT is, again, in the adult side of things, ACT is an evidence-based practice. So which means it's proven through research to be effective. On the adult side, it's often been used with very seriously mentally ill adults, often who are homeless and really disconnected from services. But we started to take a look at that model a year or two ago and said, you know, if we modified this for youth, this could be really helpful for youth who might be either stepping down from inpatient or residential services, or might be at risk for needing some of those services. So it's a team-based intervention. So it's a team of both clinicians and peers, rehabilitation specialists, right? So you have a team of people, and there's a psychiatrist who's on the team as well, or some sort of prescriber, so someone who can prescribe medication as needed. And that interdisciplinary team works together very intensively with an individual and their family to really address needs in a comprehensive way. And again, you know, that team will look to the youth and their family to really drive that service. You know, what are the priorities that you want to address, and what kind of supports do you need, you know, to achieve those goals. So it's a team-based approach. It's everybody sort of working together, rowing in the same direction. The advantage, right, to that team-based approach is that the coordination and collaboration between all those providers is very tight. Those teams meet every day, kind of with a whiteboard, and they say, okay, you know, we're working with Donna, this is what she needs, this is what she wants, and this is our game plan for today. So it's a very intensive service, should be pretty relatively short term, and ideally step the youth down to, you know, a less intensive service, maybe clinic, or some other service that could continue to meet folks' needs. I hope that helps answer the question.
Thank you. And if someone's interested in receiving these services, how should they reach out?
So right now, the availability is just getting started for, and our goal is to have Youth Act throughout the state. What I tell people, if they're interested in any service that the Office of Mental Health oversees, call your local county Department of Mental Health. And if I can do it later while someone else is speaking, I'll put the link in the chat for something called the Conference of Local Mental Hygiene Directors. They have a nice map of New York State with all the counties listed, and all you do is click on your county and you get the phone number for your county mental health department. And you can also ask for specifically for the SPOA. Some of you may have heard of a SPOA, it's single point of access. There's adult SPOAs and children's SPOAs. The children's SPOAs are, and the adult SPOAs for that matter, but I'm in the children's world. So the children's SPOAs are a wealth of information about anything and everything that's available for children and youth and families in the state. And they're ideally connected to the other child serving systems. So you heard me talk about cross systems work. And that's what we've asked the SPOAs to do, is to also connect people to other systems as needed. So I'll put that in the chat later.
All right, thank you so much, Donna. And just so everyone knows, we are recording this program. Once we have any mentions of different resources, we'll collect them and we can share them once we share this video as well. So you can keep that in mind. Thank you so much, Donna. Now we'll go to our next panelist member, Nina. If Nina, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I hope everyone's having a good day. I want to thank NAMI-New State for inviting me. It's a very exciting opportunity for me. So my name is Nina. I was born and raised in Brooklyn. I'm a mental health advocate. I'm a freelance writer, content creator, creator of empowerment blog, sparklywartings.com. I also have my own Etsy shop with affirmation, mindfulness, motivational stickers, and some reflective worksheets. And I've also been an Ending the Silence young adult presenter for NAMI New York City Metro for almost 2 years, as well as the host and creator for their expressive arts event. So a little bit about my story on why I became an advocate. Growing up, I was a perfectionist, and a lot of my self-worth came from overachieving in school. It wasn't until my senior year of college and on the onset of my anxiety symptoms that I realized the extent that I struggled with my mental health, although my depressive symptoms have been present since I was 11 years old. So during my senior year, at around 2015, 2016, was where I reached my limit and rock bottom. So during this time, I was constantly nauseous, I had zero energy, I didn't sleep much, life felt like a blur, and I was constantly worrying about my future. So at my worst, I felt disconnected from myself. I then started to experience daily panic attacks from feeling constantly overwhelmed and overworked. So one of my academic counselors at the time was the first person who suggested I go to the counseling center to seek some help for my mental health. I didn't want to at first because I thought I had to just get it together. This was also the first time I ever even heard of the phrase mental health. We didn't talk about mental health much in my family. So because I grew up in church, I was told to put everything away. If anything was wrong with me, I blamed myself and I thought I had to fix what was wrong on my own. I told myself that I didn't need anybody's help. So something major that I learned from the semester of therapy was how mean I was to myself, how I spoke to myself as strict and limited. I had so many expectations and I never was proud of my accomplishments. This realization was hard for me, but it made me more aware how to begin to recover and be gentler with who I was. I wanted to be more active in loving myself. So around this time was also when I started to write and work on my self-talk. Self-talk became the first lens and avenue in which I challenged my thoughts, continue to seek help and advocate for myself. So my blog, Sparkly Vortex, allowed me to write all the negative thoughts I experienced, but instead of believing those thoughts, I reversed them into something more positive. I created quotes, poems, notes, bulletins, and reflective prompts to remind myself to keep going every day. My new motto is to always remember to be gentle with myself and my journey. The Mighty website where I initially met others who were on their mental health journeys too, in addition to my blog, was instrumental in helping to me connect and build community as well. I now run my own reflective creative group on the Mighty called The Pencil Case. So fast forward to 2019 and finding NAMI-NYC's Ending the Silence program on my Facebook feed, I knew that I wanted to share my story and show others that it's okay to ask for help. I also knew that I was different and that was okay. I learned of my high sensitivities and new ways to take better care of myself. I wanted to learn more, so I received several certifications in mental health, mindfulness, life coaching, and I'm now working on my shadow work certification. So last year in 2020, I began hosting the expressive arts events with NAMI New York City too. And these events helped me to be more open and creative with others about who I am and how I want to become more and more of myself as I learn to love myself fully and unconditionally. So I'm so excited to host this month's expressive arts events where we will be created and drawing our own vision boards. So if you guys are available at the last Saturday of the month, I would love for you guys to join. So the diagnosis of persistent depressive disorder and PTSD did not stop me from advocating for myself and helping others to also advocate for themselves too. As I use creativity and a holistic sense of health and wellness, reflection and being mindful of how I speak to myself, I'm on the road to radical self-acceptance and loving every part of myself. So you also deserve to love yourself fully. It's okay not to be okay sometimes, and there's no shame in asking for help. So I want to leave you guys with a quote that I created a long time ago, but it still resonates, timeless. And the quote says, learn how to love yourself, learn who you are, understand everything that makes you into complete creation, become aware of all that makes you, become comfortable in discomfort. As you venture into the world of self-mastery, you will get in contact with all parts of yourself. The parts that need healing will hurt, the parts that are hidden will show. The parts that need improving will become irritated. The parts that are growing will need nurturing and feeding. The parts that are grown will shine with immense illumination and strength. Invest in self-growth, awareness, and compassion. There is no other purpose in life but to become more of yourself. Thank you guys so much for listening. You can also, if you have any questions, you can ask me.
Great. Thank you so much, Nina. Thank you for sharing that beautiful message and for sharing your personal story. You know, it's so important that we have these conversations, and that's what Mental Health Awareness Month is all about. And we have some people in the chat asking for your contact information. If you want to throw in the link to how to find out more about NAMI-NYC's different programs, that would be great. So you said you host the creative writing program. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do in that program?
Yes, I host the Expressive Arts. That's every month that has a fifth Saturday. So this month has a fifth Saturday. And during these workshop events, I make a prompt and kind of an activity, and we kind of go around on a Zoom call, of course, on what we created. So this month we are going to draw vision boards, and in the vision boards we can write affirmation, mantras. We can write the symbols that mean something to us, and just crafting and creating our vision boards and who we know ourselves to be. And after we kind of have around 30 minutes to craft and create our vision boards, and then we go around and share. So it's very simple, very straightforward, but I think it's exciting to have this time to kind of reflect and take a step back, especially in these trying times where we know our mental health has been greatly affected. So I just get really excited to kind of reflect with everyone and be able to just have that downtime together. We're drawing and connecting and being able to nurture each other's creativity. So
great, thank you. If anyone has any questions for Nina, please put them in the chat. See, so you mentioned that you reached out to your counseling center. Did you say that was when you were in high school or in college?
That was in college. So I was the perfectionist. I would call myself the perfectionist student. And that was me kind of just like overachieving, getting straight A's. And I thought that I can like push myself to my limit until my senior year of college, where I actually started where I started feeling those anxiety symptoms and like actually catching like panic episodes every single day. And that was scary for me. And one of my counselors suggested I go to the counseling center at my school in Syracuse. That's where I went to school, in Syracuse University. And that was the first time I've ever considered having issues with my mental health. Although I was kind of like withdrawing and like having moments of isolation. So ever since I was 11 years old. So in Syracuse, while I was seeking that mental health um, support for the first time in my life, I started realizing the things that I needed to improve within myself. And that became the beginning of my journey to like expressing myself, loving myself more, and opening that conversation within myself so I can then open that conversation within my family structure as well.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you so much for sharing all that. And I'm sure, people on this call can definitely relate to, all the stresses that come with college and everything building up. So I hope that everyone listening, especially as people start going back to school and things transition back to the old ways of being in person, and they might feel like those overwhelming, sensations as well with anxiety once being back in person. And we haven't really been used to that lately. I hope that they will reach out to their campus resources, and we're going to have RPI later on, who's going to share the work they're doing to expand their services and provide for their students. So thank you so much, Nina. And if anyone has any questions, you can put them in the chat, and later on we will open the floor back up. So now I would like to introduce our next speaker. Give me one sec. Okay, and now we have Christina, who can go ahead and introduce herself. Christina, if you're all set.
Thanks, Cass. Hello, everybody. I'm still seeing you, Cass. I don't know if you guys are seeing me. I'm guessing hopefully you are. I have been getting everybody's probably favorite message. Your internet is unstable. So if I break in and out, please bear with me. But I'm Christina Mossgraber. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at NAMI Rochester up here in upstate New York. And I'm so happy that Cass invited me to be a part of this today, because I've seen a lot of familiar faces on the call today. And so for a lot of you who know me, you know that youth mental health and suicide prevention is such a cause close to my heart. And so wanted to just tell you guys a little bit about some things we're doing at NAMI Rochester. And particularly, I wanted to tell you about a program my colleague and I have created recently called Bridging the Gap. For many years, I've spent in the classroom doing Ending the Silence. And I would have so many kids come up to me after and say, I'm totally hearing all these things you're talking about, these warning signs. And I've talked to the adults in my life, mom, dad, guardian, whoever, and they say it's just teenage stuff, or they say it's just drama, or they say that I'm too young to be having these feelings, so I don't know what to do. So my colleague and I were kind of rolling that around, especially thinking about programs we were going to be offering once schools reopened, because we've already seen a hugely increased demand for services for youth. I'm sure you all have as well. And so we've tried to proactively figure out how we're going to meet those needs, especially for parents, teachers, administrators, caregivers. And so we created this program. And ultimately what it is an opportunity to have a conversation and to learn how to truly bridge the gap from what adults may hear with what our youth are saying, what youth are presenting as, looking for, kind of the pain behind the behavior, teaching them about signs and symptoms and lots of the things we teach about in Ending the Silence and other programs, but then also, okay, then what do we do? How do we use conversation? How do we use a lot of the stuff we talk about in some of our other programming, I statements and things like that. So really opening the dialogue and talking about empathy versus sympathy and meeting people where they're at. I think that's a lesson we can all, continue to teach ourselves, right? Like we meet people where they're at. So the goal of Bridging the Gap is to really help youth and adults, come together and to really teach the adults. So right now, there is an adult version, again, for administrators, for caregivers. We're working with our new faith-based community, faith-based committee we have out in the community here in Rochester to offer it to youth groups and youth group leaders. So Because we're still remote, if anybody is interested in any additional trainings for groups of adults who work with youth, we're happy to offer that. We just had a call not long ago with Wendy and Cass and Matthew, kind of talking about it. We've offered that we're more than happy to offer it around the state if anybody's interested, because I know we all right now are trying to figure out how we support these young people, how we support these adults that are supporting these young people. And so we're all in this together. So we would love to talk more about that. I'll put my email in the chat actually, so you guys can contact me directly. So that's something we're really proud of. We're really excited. We did a lot of internal review on it. We did a lot of focus group, and we've got it really to a place where we're really thrilled to be able to share it again with the community. So we're happy to offer it at no cost, like all of our other programming. We also, just another couple, I know time is, we're very mindful of time, and I unfortunately do have to go after my session, but we are working on When the World is Safe Again. We're working with creating a basics meetup group. So we know a lot of our folks have taken the basics on demand. And so we want to create a meetup group for people to come and talk about what they've learned, and then eventually offer basics again. So basics, for those of you who aren't NAMI on the call, basics is the 6-week program for caregivers of people 22 and under. So it really helps us, especially with that time period of people who their loved one isn't quite old enough for them to come to family. They might be navigating the school system. There's a lot of pieces and parts to it. So we usually offer that in person. The on-demand version is available at NAMI.org. So we're trying to create When the World is Safe Again for people to really be together in a group to create a safe place for people to share what they've learned and to share notes and to get some more support. We're also creating a young adult support group. I have a few wonderful interns with me now and with the summer that we're going to be creating a young adult group. We had one many years ago at NAMI, and as happened with young adults, they get older and then they're no longer young adults. And so we have a new group to help us create this wonderful group to, again, support young people and to support college age students as well. We do have a couple NAMI on campuses here in Rochester, so we're hoping to offer that as more support for people. And we're also working on custom programming, again, for the schools, because a lot of them, really love Ending the Silence, which is that school-based program for young people, but they're like, gosh, we really need XYZ, we really need to focus on this or that. And so we've been working really hard to create custom programming. So I just want to encourage everyone and anyone on this call that we're all, in this together. We're all doing the best we can. NAMI Rochester will always help you if we can to create programming, to meet people where they're at. And also just a little reminder to all of you on this call to give yourself some grace. I think we're all doing amazing in this time. And just keep in mind, things don't look like they used to. I know we've maybe gotten used to that. But just, from me to all of you, you're doing an absolutely amazing job. You're here today, giving up your time to learn and to grow. So I thank you from that as, my role at NAMI as a person who lives with a mental illness and who is so, incredibly impassioned by this cause. So I just want to always share that with people, that give yourself some grace. Nina, thank you so much. Be gentle with yourself. That is one of my mantras. I'm going to reiterate that to everyone on this call. With a few minutes that I have left in my time, if you have any questions or things you wanted to offer or learn more about, please feel free to jump on. Cass, I don't know if you had anything in the queue. I'm putting my email right here in the chat, so please reach out at any time.
Sharing all that in your personal experience as well. I was hoping that you can just tell us a little bit about the difference between Ending the Silence and you're Bridging the Gap for people who aren't so familiar with our programs.
Absolutely. So the Ending the Silence for staff and for parents is an amazing program. It has a lot of information about statistics, about warning signs, about what you might see at school, what you might see at home, and then how to have those conversations and engage with the school system and engage with wherever you may need to, depending on the setting, again, school-based or whether it's in the community or supportive services. Bridging the Gap is really intended, again, to focus on the conversation. So we do, we talk about signs and symptoms. We don't get into numbers. We do talk about how common, mental illness is, but we really want to focus and spend our time doing a deep dive into language and communication and barriers to communication and how we bridge that. It is co-taught by myself and Samantha Colson, who's my colleague. I bring the lived experience, I'm the professional and the lived experience voice. So I share what I experienced when I was a young person, before my diagnosis and my treatment as an adult. And she brings her experience, both as, my colleague, and she's also a licensed social worker. So because we also created this program, it's a train the trainer model. So we will be training people to deliver this program as well. So if anybody comes to it and you're like, wow, I really like this program and I'd love to teach it, we'd be happy to teach you how to teach it. So, but we'd love to, again, offer it to anybody who could use it.
Great, thank you so much. And again, if Christina will be leaving us a little early today, but if you have any questions for her, please let me know and we will send them over to her. And again, her information is right in the chat, so you can go ahead and contact her directly. Thank you so much, Christina.
Thanks for having me, Cass. Appreciate it.
No problem. All right, and next up, we have our RPI group from their counseling center. So we have Cheryl, Elise, and Raquel. If you are ready, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I am Cheryl Spencer, and I'm a clinical social worker with the Counseling Center. And Elise and Raquel are joining as well. Elise, do I see you in there?
Sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
Hi, yes, I'm here. So my name is Elise Newman. I am also a social worker in RPI's counseling department. And Cheryl and I kind of tag teamed the start of this program, and then we dragged Raquel into it. So Raquel, you can go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
All right. Hey, folks. So I am Raquel Rodriguez-Asher, and I'm actually the health educator that works in the Student Health Center over at RPI. And much like Elise said, her and Cheryl, they started up this project and they decided to pull me in for a little bit of administrative support here and there.
I just want to start by saying thank you, Christina, for sharing that the importance of self-compassion. I just did a presentation today for our staff about staff burnout and compassion fatigue and all of that. So grateful for you to share that, just kind of reinforce to all of us, all this work we're doing in the community and making time out to do great things and make a difference and do more outreach is such important stuff. So again, I'm Cheryl. I have been with RPI Counseling Center for about 8 years now. My background has been in community mental health, working with children and families, working in homeless services, working all over the place in adoptions, everything. But I want to say thank you to NAMI, because NAMI, for the several years that I've been out there practicing, has always been my go-to for families, parents, adults, as a resource. NAMI has been credible, reliable. I mean, they've just been doing beautiful, great work, advocacy, and education for so many people all over the United States. So I'm just really grateful to be here and be a part of this. We brought NAMI in, we partnered with NAMI about a year ago. We met connecting at a hockey game, and they were doing some outreach and we were doing outreach in the counseling center. And so we started a conversation there, and I said, hey, we got to get together, because the studies are showing in American college mental health the increased demand for services by college students, the needs that we're seeing, the studies, the increased anxiety disorders, the depression. And, we are a team of how many, Elise, right now? We are going to be losing a couple staff, so we're going to be down. I think we've got maybe 5 therapists there right now.
6 therapists and our psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And we also have our kind of like a part-time Marlene. She is also doing some medication management as well. So.
Yeah. So when we, as I've been here over the last 8 years, we have been seeing the increased demand and trying to work on a model to get students in. And we also know there's a lot of students that are not accessing the counseling center for lots of reasons, whether, it's cultural, whether it's, they maybe had bad experiences in the past, and maybe just, they just are scared. and suffering alone. So the goal of bringing NAMI in was to say, let's do some more outreach. Let's find ways that we can, find those students that are sitting in their room suffering. And maybe if we do some sort of program that is a little bit more, more informal, and they're, talking with peers, that would provide them a safe place where they could come in and talk to a peer about what they're struggling with. And so that's where we began a dialogue with NAMI. We began having monthly meetings to talk about how do we get this thing up and going. We started, discussing, the peer-to-peer support group program. And then I realized, I'm like, I can't do this alone. I need someone to help me here. And then that's where we've gotten Elise and Raquel to really pull together and do a lot of the marketing, and like, how do we reach out to these students? How do we, get them in to be, number one, find time from a full-time schedule as a college student to do volunteer work, to work as a peer leader, to be there for their peers and make time for that every week. I know we are all really proud, Raquel and Elise, right now. We're so proud that we've got this program up and running. We are now running 4 meetings a week. We have meetings on Tuesdays, 2 on Wednesdays, and 1 on Sunday, where we have peer leaders that are there. And, we're doing everything virtually through WebEx right now, but we're hoping this summer, as Elise is initiating, to see if we can get a live peer-to-peer group going on campus for Summer Arch. So I'm just so grateful to have NAMI in our community, and thank you for training our leaders. And I'm going to pass this on to Elise and Raquel to talk to you about the details of how we're still growing and learning along the way about how to get this program up and running to do more outreach for our students.
So hello again, everybody. Again, my name is Elise, and so what we've kind of been learning over the past year, we've had now 2 successful semesters of this program, and it's really been a piloted program. We're obviously totally building this from the ground up with the help of NAMI, and we're also trying to take into consideration our specific community at RPI. For those of you that don't really know, RPI is very STEM oriented, a lot of math and science majors, engineering school. So in that specific community, that comes with a whole additional kind of set of needs that our students experience. We have a lot of social anxiety, quite a few students on the autism spectrum, and a lot of kind of as Nina mentioned earlier, like that perfectionism mindset is a really, really prominent thing that our students experience. So something that we've had to kind of maneuver is, how do we market this program for our students to not only, want to come, but also to feel comfortable? Because again, when we're talking about social anxiety, walking in blindly to, a group of peers can kind of be a little, nerve-wracking. So Raquel's going to really talk more about the marketing, but one thing that I'm just going to talk about briefly is we, in the past few months, realized, this program is great and it's working out well, but we really need some organization and structure. So kind of taking from almost like a club-based approach that you would see on a college campus, Raquel and I came up with a few different positions for our peer support students to hold within the program. So some of those positions are, a president, a secretary, social media and marketing chairs, outreach and programming chairs, registration and census maintenance, so we can kind of track who's coming to our programs and kind of like what our retention rates are, as well as recruitment and retention for our peer support leaders themselves. So we of course started this program and didn't really know what exactly it was going to entail. We've really been learning, over the past year, but what we obviously knew was that this was so important, especially with of course, the pandemic. As Cheryl mentioned, there's only 6 of us therapists in the office, and we are booked. We're booked solid, for weeks. And that's great because that means our students are coming to us and they're utilizing us. But it also means that they likely need more support than we technically can give. So this was really seen as kind of a supplementary program, as well as Cheryl mentioned, also a way to bridge the gap for students that may not be confident in really going to a full-on professional source, but feel more comfortable starting off with a peer support. And Raquel, I will hand it over to you to chat a bit about, again, kind of our social media and marketing and other things that we've utilized to implement the program.
Gotcha. So before I dive into that, Elise and I putting together these roles for the NAMI peer leaders, we really want the group to be, we want the students to be able to sustain themselves. Okay. For the most part, me, Cheryl, Elise, we do want to sit back, let them take the driver's seat, not only let them lead the group, but also develop some skills that are going to look really great on their resumes and give them some of that professional experience. So that's what we were looking to accomplish. Yes, in addition to making sure the group is smoothly run, but giving these students some real life skills as well. And so, as we all know, making sure that an organization runs smoothly, we need some organization. So I walked these students through how to set up a Google Drive, set up different folders for them where they can put their rosters, where they can put some of their promotional materials, etc. And so far, so good. They've been able to kind of keep up their housekeeping with that. And it makes for communication to be streamlined a lot easier. We also set up an Instagram page for the RPI NAMI peer support groups because we understand that, again, we're closing out the end of a virtual semester. And so we want to meet students where they are. Students want to meet students where they are. And so utilizing social media platforms such as Instagram, which seem to be pretty popular amongst the RPI student population, that's the way to go. So we've set up a system where the students, again, like Elise said, we've got those roles, we've got our social media chair and we've got our marketing chairs, and they work in tandem to put together content that will, describe the purpose of the group, introduce the peer leaders, talk about what the experience might be like for students at NAMI. So that's kind of really what the social media has served as. And they also have a Linktree account where they can post any mental health articles and any content like that. But yeah, we kind of just have given them these tools and it's up to them to keep that maintenance going.
Thank you all so much for sharing all the information. Just due to time, we'll take some questions about this project at the end. So we'll talk more about NAMI on campus, about our connections, training for people who are interested in becoming peer trainers, facilitators for peer support groups. So we'll cover that at the end, but now I would like to introduce our next speakers, who will be Kai and Phoebes. Kai and Phoebes, if you're ready, you can go ahead and get started.
All right. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Kai Hillman, Director of the Youth Clubhouses in Columbia and Greene Counties through the Mental Health Association. I don't know if everyone has heard about the youth clubhouses, but we began in 2017 as part of a second round of a grant from New York State OASAS, is the Office of Addiction Services and Supports. So that's who we're funded by, and our target audience is youth and young adults youth and young adults in recovery from addiction, substance use, things like that. But we find that obviously a lot of the work that we're doing is preventative, and also, I went blank. I do this, sorry guys, when I speak in public. Anyway, I'll go back. So, right. So we started in 2017. We're a youth recovery community organization. Donna talked earlier about services of care, or in our case, continuum of care, trying to fill the gaps in services for people in addiction recovery. So we are a drop-in center, as Phoebes explained earlier, a safe space for youth and young adults. We're non-clinical, non-treatment, just a legit place, like youth-led. we in our very beginning, we had youth advisory committee to advise us what they want and where they want to go. And yeah, so I mean, I could speak forever about what we do, but for this case, we were talking about presenting our peer leader program, which is a pilot program that we're doing now, which seems very similar to what the last presenters were actually talking about in college, except we're doing it with youth. It's our first time that the Mental Health Association in Columbia Green has hired young people under 18. So we were breaking some barriers there. We have hired 7 youth peer leaders for this first round in, when was it? It was like a month or two ago when we first started. So this is very, very new. We have worked with peer leaders in the past through the Summer Youth Employment Program, through the Workforce Development Center and Columbia Green Community College. And from that experience, and also from the radio experience that Phoebe started, I think 2 years ago now, we've talked with the youth and developed this this program to be able to pay youth for the work that they're doing, because they have access to get things accomplished that we don't as adults. And it also is really supporting them in their process and mentorship. So yeah, Phoebes, you want to chime in?
Yeah, thanks for introducing the big picture. So yeah, I'll try to dive a little more into detail in the peer leader program that so yeah, I've been managing programs at the clubhouse for 2-3 years now, and what's really exciting about this approach is that we're actually hiring young people to really staff programs alongside of us, and to take on a leadership role to both determine what it is we even need in this drop-in center for youth, and to develop the messages and the educational materials that would actually reach youth, and then to get their voices out to groups of people, again, that our staff wouldn't necessarily meet. And it's obviously totally consistent with peer mentor models in mental health and with the literature and cultural competency. The youth really bring something just absolutely invaluable when they work alongside somebody with clinical training or somebody who's just aged out of knowing how to talk to 13-year-olds all the time. So it's been a really, really cool experience to have them come in. And it's very similar to what I think a lot of you are saying, the RPI program, except I think we just have to do more hand holding because we're working with 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds, and kind of what was really important, I think, for us is our get a lot of middle schoolers in for out of school time because their parents are happy to have them in a place where they know where they are. They don't have as much autonomy. It is in person. I saw that question. We're based in Catskill and Hudson, in the Hudson Valley. And we have a physical location in Catskill right now. And so, lost the train of thought, of course. But yeah, so we have the youth like plugging in with our team and actually creating those programs. And I think why it was so important, oh, that was it. Why it was so important is just us noticing as our middle schoolers aged into high school, regardless of how engaged they had been and what they were doing, we just saw that sort of trickle out effect. And because they're busy, and especially because we serve some of the more marginalized groups of youth in our community, they need jobs. They have to be doing paid work. And so that us being able to offer that actually in-house has been a powerful way to keep our peer leaders engaged to kind of get them through that high risk high school period. And obviously to have the benefits of them being the voice and the faces of our peer outreach in the community. And I think we've just seen educational benefits for them, like the perks of like learning by teaching and how much that's reinforced for them, the things that they're working on, which is a lot of early preventative stuff. It's about, we spend a lot of time talking about respectful language for ourselves and each other, how to create a culture of care, self-care, time management, working through just conflict in healthy ways, being able to just manage stress in school. So there's all these organic ways now. We have a built-in model for mentoring youth on those key issues that hopefully then when they hit college, maybe have some more tools in their backpack before they hit y'all. Maybe could be peer leaders in RPI someday. So I'll stop there. I know we have limited time. It's been really fun to kind of get this off the ground.
Thank you. Thank you both so much for sharing all that. So with the Mental Health Association, is there youth clubhouses in all the different affiliates as well?
No, there's not. There are at this point probably over 20 clubhouses in different, down in the city all the way up to Buffalo. So in the different regions, but they're all under different agencies.
Oh, okay.
Typically, yeah, they're affiliated with agencies that work in addiction recovery. But so this is actually the Mental Health Association of Columbia Green's first OASIS grant opportunity.
Sure, and I know it's a similar program to our peer-to-peer ones we were speaking about, our connections. Can you tell the difference, since it's recovery and addiction? What's the difference between ours, at the ones that we hold and the ones that the youth clubhouses put together?
Not sure there is much of a difference, to be honest.
Okay.
We, some of our work that the youth are doing, I'll give you one example that we just recently received a grant. So some of our work is geared towards, or their work will be geared towards learning and training how to administer Narcan, and then training it to their peers and other families that they have access to. So some of the things we touch on, we might have a little more in-depth conversations about addiction and recovery. And I also am a person in recovery myself. And, I like to, surround myself with staff and who have lived experience in addiction recovery, mental health, all of it, because at the end of the day, we're all struggling with something, and it's all recovery in some way or another.
Great, thank you. And then you mentioned, can you repeat the ages for people who can get involved?
Right. So the youth part of our program is ages 12 through 17, although, oftentimes they bring younger siblings, and that's fine. And then we have a young adult program, 18 and up.
Okay, let me just look in the chat. Sorry. All right, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for Kai or Phoebes? All right. Thank you all so much for joining us. If anyone has any questions for any of our panelists members, please, feel free to ask in the chat. And Kai, if you can throw your information into the chat, that would be great. All right, and now, thank you. And just before we end, I would just like to mention some of our other upcoming programs we have. So let me share screen. So as I mentioned, when we began, this is a part of our Wellness Wednesday series. This was our first one, our part one, which obviously focused on youth mental health. Next week on the 12th at the same time, 4 p.m., we'll be holding a presentation on mental health in the workplace. Following that, transforming crisis response. And then we have multicultural mental health. I know earlier someone mentioned in the chat looking into creating support groups for Caribbean family members. So things of that nature, you can definitely come on and share that, and you can learn what we're doing to expand multicultural mental health within NAMI. And then also on Wellness Wednesdays, we are holding yoga. You can sign up and register for yoga. All our programs, of course, are free. We do suggest donations if you're able. And let's see, what else do we have going on? In the Capital Region, we are holding a car parade. So you can register for that, find out what our route is. And let's see, NAMI Cafe. Kate, do you want to share what NAMI Cafe is all about?
Yeah, so we're super excited to bring NAMI Cafe back. This is going to be an open mic night. It will be virtual. It's going to take place May 27th, which is a Thursday at 7 p.m. And we have some really great artists lined up. We have singers, we have poets, and we do have a couple spaces still open. So if you are interested, I'd be happy to share my personal information in the chat if anyone's interested in participating. But you certainly can hop on too and just watch these really great performers, and we hope to see you there.
Awesome. And we didn't get to ask Elise, Cheryl, and Raquel any questions. So if anyone has more questions about the work we've been doing with RPI, you can go ahead. Just to cover some bases. So NAMI has the connections training for people who can facilitate peer support groups. So that's, as Christine mentioned in the chat, that's what we provided, this training. So we're training different students at RPI who are living with mental health condition, and they lead the support groups with a partner. And as they mentioned, they have 4 different support groups going on. They're going to be taking this into their summer program, and then in the fall looking for new members. There's NAMI on Campus, which is a student-led mental health club for campuses. At RPI, they have, what is it called? Active Minds. We don't compete with Active Minds. So instead of making a NAMI on Campus there, they've created this support group program instead, which is going to be club-led, and they can work together with other mental health clubs on campus. If you don't have any mental health clubs at your campus and you're interested, please contact us and we can help set that up. And if you're looking to expand any campus resources, you can contact us and we can start working on, getting this program at your campuses as well. We also help support mental health clubs in high schools. So you can always reach out to me or info@NAMI-NYS and we can share some more of that. But if Cheryl, Elise, Raquel, if there's anything you didn't get to mention earlier and you want to, you can go ahead now.
I see a question.
Yeah, I saw that too. I was thinking you could go ahead and share what our thoughts are, because I forgot to mention about how our groups are going right now. And someone asked a great question about how do we keep the young learners engaged or keep coming back. So Elise, if you want to share what we've been seeing with that and how we're working on it.
So yeah, that has been one of the biggest learning curves for us. Is we have this awesome program and we know that it can do great things, but how do we keep students not only interested but continually interested, especially with students who have at least a 40-50 hour work week, in regards to schoolwork. So one thing that we recently did, of course, I shared our Instagram. Our peer support leaders are going to be doing kind of like personal introductions on the Instagram, just so that those following the Instagram and who are interested in the program can learn more about each specific group leader, so that then they may feel a little bit more of a connection ahead of time. The other thing that we just spoke about in our meeting just the other day is that our group leaders are also going to be making some video content sharing what the groups actually look like. So like what the structure of the group is, from beginning to end. So they have a little bit more knowledge about what they're really getting into. So they're not going into this group blindly, because we know that with adolescence, that really is kind of like the fear of the unknown can deter them from actually utilizing the resources. And that's something that, again, we as a department have talked about time and time again. We can implement all of these programs, but how are we going to get them to come and continue to utilize them? So really, we're trying to focus on just really pushing out as much information and as much detail as we can about how the programs are run, make them feel more of a personal connection with the group leaders. Of course, we have 8 different group leaders to facilitating each of the groups. So the other nice thing is if you feel that you might be more compatible or more comfortable with one group leader over another, you can specify, which specific group you would like to go to. There isn't just one option, So that's nice. The other thing that we've learned is that there's specifically a need for a graduate student group. We've learned just from feedback, and in upcoming months, we're going to be working on developing this, but the grad students in particular, they have their own set of needs that are even, different than the undergraduate needs. So that's another thing that we've learned, that we really have to kind of narrow down, who these groups are catering to. Cheryl or Raquel, do either of you want to add anything else?
No, I think that was pretty well said. It's just, again, groups are really hard to begin with in most, settings here. And what we've seen at RPI, even running other groups like depression groups or anxiety groups. So this is no different. We have to get really aggressive and creative about how to engage and get our peer leaders out there. We're trying to take care of them and help them feel like empowered and rejuvenated, but also we need them to be doing a lot of that work to do the outreach and say, hey, this is a great place. And we're seeing it's growing. And I'm hopeful that the more we have to stay consistent, we have to be, work like NAMI does, right? Like grassroots stuff, like we can't stop. You have to just keep pushing. And we know that if we continue, working around these problems, that we will improve. It will improve, and we'll see outcomes much better. So thank you so much, Cassie. You are, a gem. I appreciate how you just make all of this stuff happen. It's like magic with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Elise. Thank you, Raquel. Yeah, I've been working so closely with them, and it's amazing how expansive this project has come from last year and all the dedication and work they put into this. It's great seeing how the students have taken initiative and all the different ways they're looking to get involved and support their campus and their mental health. It's really great. But I won't keep everyone here any longer. Thank you all so much for joining. The link to join us for our other programs are in the chat. He put it in there if you want to learn more. We hope you have a great afternoon and, try to do some self-care today. Thank you and have a great day.